Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I've never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. With this slump that I'm on, the slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, guys? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports. It is Thursday, March 26th. We got a lot to get to here. It's official MLB opening day. We have a lot of baseball here. We have Sweet 16 in the March Madness tournament. Big NHL board today. Small NBA board. And I'm going to give out 3 plays here. 2 of them are going to be in baseball. And these baseball ones, you know how I do baseball. Like I have a bunch of different ways that I attack these baseball games. I don't really do that in other sports, but you'll see what I want to do with baseball here. And then what else am I even going to say? I'm going to have 1 play in hockey, I believe, as well. So nothing in the Sweet 16, nothing on this NBA board, which is pretty ugly. We pushed on the 1 play that I gave out yesterday on the under in the Yankees in San Francisco. If you had told me that out of the 18 frames of baseball we were going to get yesterday, runs were scored in 2 of the 18, I would have been like, yeah, that's going under, no question. No, because the Yankees put up a 5 spot in the top of the second. Thank you, Logan Webb. Even though Aaron Judge did nothing, yet again, big games, he just kind of disappears. He was 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts, I think. Whatever. But Yankees put up a 5 spot. At that point, you're like, this thing is over. It's dead. And then the Yankees scored 2 more in the top of the 5th, which made it 7. And then somehow we were able to manage no more runs for the rest of the game. We got the push on it. If you somehow got a 7.5, you won on it, although I saw 7.5s out there in a couple of books, but you had to lay like minus 135 on it, which I would not have recommended. But if you did that, you did win. But the way that went, I mean, I guess I'm fine with a push. I kind of think it was the right call, but yeah, I mean, whatever. We'll move on to today. It was a nothing day. Let's get into today, man. We're going to start with baseball because it is in the afternoon, so I got to do this chronologically because everything else is nighttime. We do have NBC and Peacock with an afternoon game for some reason between the much-hyped Pittsburgh Pirates and the New York Mets. Paul Skeens pitching for Pittsburgh here. The Mets will have their newcomer, Freddie Peralta, making his debut for the Mets. Now, I think that when a guy makes his debut for a new team, I think he actually tends to do well and gets pumped up for that start. So I actually think both pitchers are probably going to do pretty well here. I mean, Paul Skeens, it's not going out on a limb to say he's going to do well, but you do have to see what are their numbers against the opponents here. The Mets have 25 at-bats against Skeens throughout their lineup here. Not a lot of experience against them. He's held them to a 240 average, 625 OPS, so pretty good for him. Freddie Peralta has been in the league for a lot longer. He's good, though. He was Milwaukee's ace last year, and he is making the opening day start for the Mets here as their new pitcher. He's been, he's been good against Pittsburgh. That was against the Mets. He actually dominates the Mets, but he doesn't get to do that because he's on their team. His numbers against Pittsburgh are not as good as you might think. Pittsburgh is very familiar with him because he was pitching in their division. Still, they have a 235 average against him, which is low. Brian Reynolds really does a lot of damage against him, but really nobody else in the lineup does. So if he's able to just get around him, he actually pitches well against everybody else, including Ozuna. He's allowed a 711 OPS against him, which still isn't really that high. Looking at what the market is doing in this game, the Mets dropped from -125 to -116. 56% of the tickets are on Pittsburgh and 78% of the cash on the Mets. I think if I was going to play this game, I would play the Mets. I'm not going to do it, but Peralta, even though his numbers are a little bit worse than Skeens, he's probably not as talented as Skeens, but I think he can match Skeens well enough here to get us into the later portions of the game. And then the Mets have the advantage in the other aspects of this game, and the Mets have the better offense. The Mets have the better bullpen. The Mets really kind of trailed off down the stretch last year. So people are just not on them right now. Everybody just everybody sees Paul Skeens. Let's bet Paul Skeens. Well, no, because even though the starting pitching is a big aspect, you don't want to weigh it too much, and the Mets have the advantage in the other phases of the game, you know what I mean? And Peralta's not that much worse than Skeens, so I'm going to lean to the Mets in that game, money line. I'm kind of surprised that Pittsburgh is a public side there. I can't believe how hyped they are this year, man, really. Like, I don't see them being that improved. Kyle, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. And Skeens is only going to pitch once every 5 games and probably, 6 or 7 innings worth in most of those games because we're not in the old days anymore where pitchers pitch a lot. Next game up, a lot of these games are on MLB TV, I don't know, that's not the same as MLB Network, I guess, because these games are all on at the same time. I think Disney might own MLB TV. I got to go see if that means, because I have the Disney Plus all-encompassing thing with ESPN. I wonder if that includes it. I guess it doesn't because the Texas-Philly game is listed as ESPN Unlimited. So I will have that one, but I don't have MLB TV. But, of course, you can find this. I'm not supposed to say it, but you can find ways of watching these. White Sox at Brewers. Brewers are going to be a huge favorite here, but I don't know, man. This is a hard game to read. You got Shane Smith pitching for the White Sox. I mean, he was probably their best pitcher last year. My guy from Danvers, Mass. Here, he had a pretty good season last year, all things considered, but he does give up some hard contact, which might not be that good against a Brewers lineup that is pretty good. Against the Brewers, lifetime, they don't have a lot of at-bats. 14 at-bats against them. 286 average, 769 OPS is getting a little bit in the higher range there. So Smith, not a lot to go on with him there, though. So I'm not ready to say he's going to be bad or good in this game necessarily. Misiorowski, who I forgot his name when I did my MLB breakdown. I apologize. The Miz, Les Miz, Jacob Misiorowski pitching for the Brewers. I mean, he throws 100 miles an hour. He's super talented, but he got really wild and kind of fell off last year after he looked good in a couple of starts, and then he didn't do as well after that, but he does have the talent to be pretty elite. Got to get that wildness under control, but the advantage he has here is the White Sox pretty much have never seen him before. Austin Hayes has one at bat against him. It actually did single off of him, apparently, but other than that, basically the White Sox have never faced him before, and their lineup is weak. So, I talk about that. When a pitcher has never been seen before by the opposing lineup, that's a big advantage to them. So, Miz does have a pretty big advantage here. The Brewers have the better offense. I'd say they probably have the better bullpen. We have to see what happens during the season, though, because I'm just going based off of last year's numbers right now. The Brewers are the better team, but obviously that's why they're favored. Let me see here. They're down from -195 to -175 on the money line, though. 81% of the tickets, 96% of the cash on Milwaukee. This is a really, really difficult game to gauge. I don't want to touch this game, to be honest. I'm thinking maybe first 5 inning under or something like that could be an approach here. Total dropped a bit from 8.5 to 8. The money is coming in on the under, so you've kind of missed a little bit, but 8, 8.5 are kind of dead numbers in baseball. 7 is a key number. 9 is a key number. So, if you went under 8, I would not. Well, you could go under 8 in the full game, but I think first 5 is better because I don't trust really either of these bullpens enough necessarily. Although, like I said yesterday, early season, the pitchers do have an advantage usually. So I think games do tend to go under a little bit more because hitters just don't have their timing yet, whatever. But here we have 2 at least decent pitchers that the offenses are not as familiar with. So first 5 inning under and not dealing with the bullpens kind of makes sense there. Washington at Cubs. Washington is in such a bad situation that their opening day starter is Cade Cavalli. Oh my God, man. Maybe he'll be better because he has this handlebar mustache thing going on. He looks like he should be in a bare knuckle boxing match. Just take your shirt off. Go back into the 1920s. Box some Irishmen, whatever. Because I don't think he's going to do well pitching wise. But he does have one advantage here, and that is the Cubs have never faced him before. So that's an advantage usually for a pitcher, but I don't know if I trust a guy who's 27 years old, basically entered the league last year and put up almost 1.5 whip last year. I mean, that is not good. So even though the Cubs haven't seen him before, they could also potentially hit him. He's going up against Matthew Boyd, who I think really honestly kind of overperformed last year. I mean, you usually don't see a guy like him who's in his mid-30s and then all of a sudden he has like some elite season. It just doesn't make any sense. So I think he might regress a little bit, but he had a really good season last year. Maybe the Cubs, their pitching coaching maybe found something with him. I don't know. And he's facing a pretty bad lineup here with the Nats, although they actually aren't that bad against him. 32 at bats, 250 average isn't very good, but 763 OPS is all right. But that's mostly just because there's one home run mixed in there from Lyle. So yeah, I'm not touching this game, but let me see here. We have the Cubs are minus 218 now. They're a heavily public side. 94% of tickets, 96% of the cash on them. I mean, yeah, it's a difficult game to gauge. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think you could maybe look at Washington first 5 innings on the run line or something to keep it close in the first 5 innings. That would still worry me, but you might have a little bit of an advantage there just because Cavalli is an unknown. But this Washington team, they're bad. They're real bad. So, yeah, but that's not a handicapping technique, you know what I mean? Like, the fact that they're bad is factored into the line. That's why they're a massive underdog. So, those are my thoughts on that. Minnesota at Baltimore. Joe Ryan is still on Minnesota and is still their best pitcher. He's good. I mean, not much to say about that. He's definitely a good pitcher. Usually I consider him to be a bet-on type of pitcher. Orioles have 31 at-bats against him. He's held him to a 226 average, 649 OPS. Ryan's done well against them throughout his career. He's going up against Trevor Rogers, who I believe was injured prior to last year, and the Orioles seem to have found something with him last year because his numbers in his career just never impressed me. I think he was on the Marlins earlier in his career or whatever. Last year, he had a really good season. It was only a partial season, so it might be a little bit misleading, but he pitched really well for Baltimore last year, so something to consider there. I don't know what we're going to get out of him exactly here. Going up against Minnesota, they have 14 at-bats against him, and their numbers look really good because they have a 429 average and 1,000 OPS against him, but almost all of the at-bats are Josh Bell. In fact, all but one at-bat are Josh Bell. So Minnesota basically has never faced him before outside of Bell. Bell was on Washington last year. I believe Bell is definitely good. Good pick. That's one good. I forgot to mention that in my season preview. That was one of the best acquisitions for the Twins over the offseason was Bell. He's a good power hitter. But he's only going to get so many at-bats, you know what I mean? So I think Rogers might do okay here, even though his numbers don't look good against Minnesota. It's because of Bell just wrecks him. Baltimore is sitting at minus 135, down from minus 155. 81% of tickets, 97% of the cash on Baltimore. Tough game to read here for me on this one too, man. I could see first 5 under in this one too. If you want to bank on both pitchers doing decent here, and I'm not convinced that either lineup is really that good. I don't like the bullpens. Both bullpens were pretty bad last year, so taking them out of the equation. Both these games I'm talking about, the first 5 under, you're probably looking at maybe going under 4. The Washington one, maybe Washington was a run line, my mistake. But yeah, this one and then the Brewers game, I think, is the other one I mentioned. You're probably getting a decent number on the first 5 inning under a 4. I don't know if you'd see 4.5, but obviously look at what the juice is that you're paying on those numbers too. Next up is going to be the first play that I have, and I don't like it, man. As a Red Sox fan, so you probably know where I'm going with this. Let me see here. I want to make sure I have I haven't added the banners yet. I want to make sure I have the right numbers here. I'm doing something a little bit different on this one. If you want to go just money line on this, you could do that too. But we're going to go Cincinnati Reds. You might be able to find a +1 run line out there, but I didn't see it anymore. Like, I used to see them at FD, DK, like they used to have the +1 and -1 run lines. So I don't see them anymore on there. Maybe they just moved them somewhere. I don't know, but you could do this too and make your own and do a split bet here. That's what I'm going to do here. We're going to take Cincinnati +1.5 runs at -125 for about 2/3 of the bet or so, and then the rest of the bet on the money line at +135. I could show the breakdown on this too. It comes out to +104 on this. If you want to do it out of 100, 53 or so of that would be on the -125 portion of it to win 42.5, whatever, and then 42 whatever goes on the other part of it, if that makes sense. That's the breakdown on this one. But yeah, we're going to fade the Red Sox. We're going to fade Garrett Crochet. I know it's something that nobody's going to want to do. The Red Sox are a public side, 86% of tickets, 95% of the cash on them. Crochet down from -160 to -151 here, or the Red Sox are, I should say. Now, the Red Sox are the better team. I'm not going to say that they're not. They are. But, I think the hitting, you give the edge to the Red Sox a little bit. You give the bullpen edge to the Red Sox a little bit. So, yeah, the Red Sox do actually have a slight edge in every phase of the game, starting pitching, hitting, bullpen. I just don't think the edge is that significant one way or the other. And if you dig into the starting pitching matchup, it's not as lopsided as it might look it's not as lopsided as you might think, because everybody knows Garrett Crochet now. Yeah, he's an elite pitcher, and we know this. Andrew Abbott, people still don't really know who he is. He's not a named pitcher, but he's been around for a few years. He's really good, actually. Crochet, obviously, we know he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. We don't have to talk about that. But against Cincinnati, he's actually not that good. 30 at-bats, I mean, it's not a huge sample. A 10-2 strikeout walk ratio is good, but 300 average allowed against him. It's 744 OPS. So Crochet's usually dominant numbers. They're not as good against the Reds lineup. Meanwhile, we go and we look at Andrew Abbott here, who is a lefty, by the way, which might give the Red Sox some issues, although they did add some right-handed bats over the offseason there. I believe Durbin and Contreras are both right-handed bats. And speaking of Contreras, is his name Contreras? I'm seeing William Contreras here. I'm like, wait, his name's not Contreras. It's, yeah, it is. Wilson. I get them confused, dude. William Wilson. All right. Yeah, so Contreras is familiar with Abbott because he was on the Cardinals, so he was in this division. So was Durbin, but Durbin's 0 for 5 off him lifetime. Contreras is a mediocre 3 for 11, although he does have 5 walks against Abbott. But if you take those 5 walks out, overall, I mean, these numbers are not good for the Red Sox against Abbott. They have 42 at-bats off him, a 167 average, and 667 OPS against him. So he's held them pretty much down, man. So I actually like Abbott to keep the Reds in this game here and keep this game close. That's what I think is going to happen. So, yeah, we are going to take the Reds split bet run line, money line here in this all-red matchup, Reds-Red Sox, and Terry Francona against the Red Sox, man. That's what we're going to do. It's a rare matchup there. The Red Sox don't face the Reds very often. So, and it is a hitting-friendly park, although so is Fenway Park. So, Crochet, I don't think he's going to be that thrown off by pitching in any ballpark, so I'm not worried about that for him. But, yeah, we're going to go Yeah, we're going full game on that, even though a lot of that has to do with the pitching matchup there. I just think that the edge that the Red Sox have is not as big as people might think that it is. Next game up is my other play. So let me get that into the banners here. This one's going to be a total. So it's going to be boring, of course, because you know that means it's going to be an under. I don't always play the unders. I don't always play unders, but when I do, I win more often than I lose. How about that? We're going to go... Actually, sorry, this is a first 5 inning under. I'm like, under 4 in the full game. What? I have to add that. Yeah, first 5 innings under in Anaheim, Houston. I saw mostly 4.5s out there, but the price on the 4.5 was like -125. If you want to play it that way, you can, but I just kind of preferred grabbing the 4 at +100. It's a cheaper price. And then, of course, if it lands 4, it will be a push, but I'm all right with that. I actually like the starting pitching matchup, believe it or not. Jose Soriano is pitching for Anaheim. His numbers stunk last year. So what am I doing with Jose Soriano here? Well, if you dig into his splits from last year, I remember this from last year because his splits were so extreme, it was ridiculous. He had a 5.9 ERA at home last year, which is god-awful, but he's on the road today, and his road ERA last year was 2.91. So he was really good on the road. And this is also, I don't know if we consider this a day game or not because it's at 4:10 p.m. I guess it'll be at 3:10 p.m. Where they are. So he was actually better in the day, too, for what that's worth, by about a run on his ERA. So this is like the best scenario. A road day game for Soriano was the best scenario for him last year. He does still have okay stuff. And, of course, you know that if I'm recommending this as a play, he's got to have good numbers against Houston. He does. They have 46 at-bats against him. The strikeout walk ratio isn't good, 15-7. I don't like that. But Altuve has 3 of the walks. So, he probably has kind of pitched around him a little bit. So that makes it a little bit more palatable. But what makes it really palatable is the fact that he's held Houston to a 196 batting average and 584 OPS, the hitters that they have. So Soriano sets up pretty well in this matchup. And he's going up against Hunter Brown, who is one of the top pitchers in the Astros rotation. Really good stuff out of Brown. Even when he had like some blips last year, a lot of it was kind of around when he got named to the All-Star team, I think for the first time and whatever. And against Anaheim, I mean, they're not good anyway, but he's good against them in 64 at-bats. It is too many walks, again, on this side, 16-7 strikeout walk ratio, but he's held him to a 172 batting average, 597 OPS. So the starting pitchers here, I think both set up really well in this game. So that's what we're going with. Under in the first 5 innings in Angels-Astros here. We'll take the bullpens out. Anaheim, their bullpen is awful. Or at least last year it was, so we'll just throw them out. Don't deal with it. Houston's bullpen was fine, but, we'll take them out as well. I don't know. They had a lot of injuries in their bullpen at the end of the season, but instead of dealing with that, we'll focus on where I think we have the biggest advantage, and that is the first 5 inning under. All right. We got Detroit and San Diego on MLB Network. So this one is actually on TV. Probably because the biggest name pitchers get the TV games, man. Skeens gets a TV game and Skubal gets a TV game. And they're both names starting with SK. Skubal pitching for Detroit. I don't think we need to say much about him. He's probably the best pitcher in baseball. He just quit the World Baseball Classic, which maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Maybe it's not good that he didn't get those games under his belt, but maybe it means he focused on the Major League season. I don't know, but I'm not too worried about him anyway. You pretty much know what you're going to get out of him. He's consistent. He's really good. He's pitching in a very pitcher-friendly park here in San Diego. Good numbers against them, too. 54 at-bats, 19-5 strikeout walk ratio. A lot of strikeouts. 167 average, allowed 552 OPS. So he's pretty much burned through the Padres lineup. So that's good. But obviously, all that's going to be factored into the line here. And that's what I don't love about this. That's why I like these under-the-radar unders a little bit more, like Soriano. Brown, people don't even really know him that well. But people are not going to be looking at that game I just gave out as an under. Like, they might be looking at this game. Nick Pivetta is pitching for San Diego. Decent pitcher. He had a good season last year with San Diego, though. I think pitching in this pitcher-friendly park definitely helped him. And that's where they are tonight, of course, or today. His numbers against Detroit are good, too. 71 at bats, so they've seen him a lot, and he's done well against them. 24-6 strikeout walk ratio, 197 average allowed, 612 OPS allowed. So, if I was going to play this game, an under does make sense. I'm not going to say that it doesn't. Detroit's down from minus 135 to minus 130 on the money line. 70% of tickets, 95% of the cash on Detroit here. I don't see much as far as the side. I mean, Scooble's going to be a public side, so I don't know if I would agree with playing that side, really. I don't have a good gauge on the side. I still probably do lean under here, but you're looking at a 7, which, makes sense in a matchup like this. I'm actually kind of surprised it's not 6.5. The money looks like it's coming in the over, though, believe it or not here. 59% of tickets on the under, 69% of the cash on the over. That does surprise me. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I think when you got Scooble on the mound, I think it's, you're kind of on a razor's edge there with the unders. I mean, I still like it. Like, I think if you forced me to give you a play on this game, I think I would go full game under the 7 here. San Diego's bullpen was very good last year. I don't really see that changing much. Detroit's bullpen, I think, is all right as well. So, and it's a pitcher-friendly park, kind of similar to last night. But this one, I don't really want to give it out as an actual play. But those are my thoughts on that. If you want me to talk about the side in any of these other games, because I know I kind of skipped it with Anaheim, Houston. Houston's down to minus 173. They're super public, 90% of tickets, 94% of the cash on Houston. So there might be some value with Anaheim in that game, even though they're not the better team. Maybe it's too much of a price on Houston there. And Soriano, again, that matchup, that setup for him is a lot better than people would think that it is. So, all right. I think, I talked about the side in every other game, right? I don't know. I have some stronger feelings on some of the totals, though. Josh, what's up, man? The Nets, I don't even remember who they were playing last night. I don't know. That was the type of game I did not want any involvement in. You don't know what you're going to get out of these teams late in the NBA season when they're out of it. You got to try to gauge how motivated they're going to be. And I know I've given out some plays on some of those teams, and the last couple actually won. But yeah, I don't know. I think you got to get really picky with it. All right, this ESPN Unlimited game here with Texas and Philadelphia. It's an interesting one. The pitching matchup is really good in this one, which, again, is probably why it's on ESPN Unlimited. Texas was a really good pitching team last year. Hitting, not so much. Philly obviously has the better offense here. Texas has the better pitching, so it's kind of that typical pitching versus hitting here, except that Christopher Sanchez is a really good pitcher for Philly, too. Texas probably has the better bullpen, if last year is any indication. Nathan Eovaldi is pitching for the Rangers. I don't remember what his splits were like last year, but I'm guessing he pitched better at home because, actually he didn't. He was actually better on the road, believe it or not, because Texas's stadium was actually pretty pitcher-friendly last year, but he actually pitched well on the road last year too, so my mistake there. Against the Phillies, his numbers are pretty good in 62 at-bats, 18-5 strikeout walk ratio, 242 average allowed, 702 OPS is getting a little bit high, but overall, pretty good numbers here. The majority of these at-bats are all from Bryce Harper, who does hit him fairly well. But if he can pitch around Harper, he might do all right in this matchup here. He's going up against Sanchez, who did have a good season last year. A career year for him last year. He's pretty good. Up against Texas, his numbers are actually not very good, though. In 62 at-bats, 12-6 strikeout walk ratio is not very good. Some of this includes the new bats that Texas picked up. 290 batting average allowed, 740 OPS allowed. None of that is really that good. So, there might be some value looking towards Texas in this one, man. The money is coming in on Philadelphia. And, of course, again, Philly, the biggest advantage they have is the offense. But Texas probably still has the better bullpen. And starting pitching-wise, Eovaldi actually has better matchup numbers here. 64% of the tickets, 92% of the cash on Philly. Philly down from minus 155 to minus 152. I'm going to be honest. If I was going to play this game, I would actually probably lean towards Texas. Maybe do what I did in the other game, do like a split bet, run line, money line situation. I think you might be getting a little bit of value on the Rangers here, man, because people overvalue hitting, and that's Philly's big advantage here. And, Texas may be a little bit under the radar this year because their pitching is actually pretty good, so we'll see. Nets were ahead into the last 3 minutes of the game. How much did they lose by? They must have been a big underdog. How could they not cover that? That's definitely some bullshit there. Sounds like you were on the right side in that one. Tampa Bay and St. Louis. This one is interesting. Now, I don't have to point out yet that, by the way, Tampa Bay, because this game is not in Tampa Bay, but when we get to the Tampa Bay home games, they're playing in the Trop again. The Trop, hurricane damage has been fixed. I think basically they put a new roof on the thing and they're like, all right, you're good to go. So Tampa will be playing in Tropicana Field again this year. So they'll maybe have a little bit more home advantage than they did last year when they were playing in Steinbrenner Field, the Yankees spring training stadium. And we won't have like extreme overs in the Tampa Bay home games anymore, which we kind of did last year in that more hitter-friendly park that's designed to have the same dimensions as Yankee Stadium. They're only 3-point underdog. Wow, all right. I would have thought they would have been more, but I know the Warriors are like really injured. I'm guessing that game was at Brooklyn. I don't know. I talked about it on my show yesterday. I don't remember anything that I said. Drew Rasmussen is pitching in this game against Matthew Liberatore. Rasmussen had a really good season last year. Now, what the Rays did with him last year is they really managed his pitch count. Like, they started taking him out after about 5 innings, so he became the guy that, like, you wanted to play on him in the first 5 innings because you knew he was going to give you, like, 5 solid innings. Then they take him out of the game, and then it's kind of like everything else is up in the air. I don't know if that's going to be the case this year or not. Against the Cardinals are going to be, I think, pretty epically bad this year, to be honest. They're going to be bad. The Cardinals only have 3 hitters who have ever faced Rasmussen before. 14 at-bats against him, and they have no hits against him and no walks, 4 strikeouts. So the Cardinals don't have a hitter who's even reached base against Rasmussen before. This Rasmussen, he's playing hard to get, man. Nobody can even get to first base with this guy. Come on, just allow me a little, little makeout sesh. Come on, Drew. So he does have good numbers against the Cardinals. Liberatore had kind of a wild season last year that was a bit all over the place. I'm not really sold on him, but his numbers against the Rays are pretty good. They only have 1 hit off him in 15 at-bats. So these pitchers combined have allowed 1 hit to these opposing lineups. This is in 15 at-bats, I think I said. 0.67 average allowed, 243 OPS allowed. He's allowed a couple of walks in there. I mean, I think first 5 under is probably my opinion in this game. I don't want to touch it, but, you got, 2 pitchers that are not that familiar to the opposing hitters. The offenses are really not that great on either side necessarily. I think the pitchers might have a little bit of an advantage here in the starting pitching matchup. I don't know what to expect out of the bullpens, although Tampa's was actually fairly good last year. Cardinals, maybe not so much. If you wanted to go full game on this because you can get under that key number of 7.5, you could do that too. Under first 5 makes sense to me in this one, but you might have to go under 3.5 in this one, but it does also make sense to me, although we see money on the over here, which does worry me a little bit. 65% of tickets and 96% of the cash on the over. That concerns me a little bit for sure. All right, we have Arizona and the Dodgers, NBC and Peacock, and of course it's another big-name pitcher here with Yamamoto pitching for the Dodgers here. Unfortunately for the Diamondbacks, they have no pitching, and they're going with Zach Gallen in their opener here. They re-signed him, I think. He did not have a great season last year, although I actually think he's better than what his numbers looked like last year. Like, he had better numbers in previous seasons than what he did last year, so I don't think he's that bad. But I don't think he's going to, obviously he doesn't have an easy matchup here against the best lineup in baseball, the Dodgers, who are really good on offense at home. Gallen's numbers are not very good. They have a ton of at-bats against him, 165, so they're very familiar with him. They have a 273 average off him, which isn't that good, but a 779 OPS is a little bit high. 45 to 18 strikeout walk ratio. It's a lot of walks. So the Dodgers don't really struggle to get on base against this guy to get hits off him. Yamamoto obviously has the edge here. He is the better pitcher overall. Against the D-backs, he does have really good numbers as well, and 75 at-bats, so they're pretty familiar with him. They still haven't been able to really hit him. 26 to 6 strikeout walk ratio, 147 average allowed, 450 OPS. That's very, very good stuff there. I clicked on women's college basketball, which is back in action tomorrow, by the way, in their Sweet 16. I believe. But yes, Yamamoto has really good numbers. He obviously has an advantage here. The Dodgers have the better hitting. The bullpens, both of these bullpens were ass last year, so, probably not much of an advantage one way or the other there. Dodgers, I think, are the biggest favorite on the board today, probably. Yeah, they're up to minus 250. Very public, though. 94% of tickets, 97% of the cash on the Dodgers. If you wanted to lay the run line on this one with the Dodgers, minus 1.5, I wouldn't really be opposed to it. I just don't see Arizona being able to win this game. Perhaps the better approach, though, because you have a pretty high total at 9. The better approach might be to go over the Dodgers team total, though you're going to be asking them to score maybe even 6 runs in the game if you do that, but that might be the way that I would go in this one. But I worry about that because it's one of these early season games, where the pitchers tend to have a little bit of an advantage. But if anybody's going to be able to do it, it should be the Dodgers at home against a fairly weak pitching Arizona team. And then a game that I don't think is going to be high scoring is at the very pitcher-friendly Seattle. Cleveland at Seattle. Cleveland, we know they're not very good offensively. Their bullpen was actually fairly good last year. In Seattle, we know they're a really good pitching team. This game looks like it's going to be pretty pitcher-heavy to me. Tanner Bybee is pitching for the Indians. I'm going to still call them the Indians here. He didn't have a great season last year, but he did start turning it on again at the end of the season. Cleveland still considers him to be their ace, and, I don't really see a reason why he shouldn't be considered that. It's not like he's the best pitcher out there, but I do think he's better than what he looked like for the majority of last year. He's getting a pitcher-friendly ballpark here to pitch in. Against Seattle, he's got good numbers against them in 45 at-bats, 11 strikeouts, 3 walks, 200 batting average, 665 OPS. So Bybee has done well against the Mariners lineup in general. He's going up against Logan Gilbert. And, Bybee, he might be a little bit under the radar now because he wasn't that good last year. So people might be kind of off the Tanner train there. Logan Gilbert was hurt for a lot of last year, but he started pitching pretty well. He is a good pitcher. Wound up having a good overall season last year, even though it was a shortened season. His numbers are also good against Cleveland. I mean, they're not a good offense. 51 at-bats, 14 to 2, strikeout walk ratio, 235 average allowed, 696 OPS allowed. So, yeah, I mean, this game pretty much has underwritten all over it. I'm thinking, why am I not adding this to my card? I mean, I like it. If I was going to add another game, I think I would add this one. The total is up a little bit to 7. We have 58% of tickets, 80% of the cash on the over. So the money is on the over in this game. I don't see it. I mean, again, you have a lot of things looking like this is going to be an under. Especially, Seattle's offense is pretty good, but Cleveland's offense is terrible. Both bullpens were at least pretty decent last year. Both starters look like they set up pretty well in this one. Pitcher-friendly park, early in the season, night game, probably going to be a cool environment. Under is the way I would play this game if I was going to do anything with it. You could consider first 5 inning under as well if you want to take the question mark of the bullpens out, but I think you could leave them in this case. I wouldn't really be that worried about that, although I don't want to eat my words. Seattle is also a pretty heavy favorite, up to minus 177, and I'm not high on Cleveland this year. Cleveland overperformed at the end of last year. They're really not that good, but I think Seattle is also kind of overhyped coming into this season. A lot of people are picking them to win the American League. I don't think they're going to be honest. 82% of tickets, 86% of the cash on Seattle. So the money looks like it's on Seattle a little bit, but they are a pretty public side. So As far as the side is concerned, maybe there is a little bit of value looking towards Cleveland here, especially if it's going to be a lower scoring game. They might be able to hang around in that game, and it could be, again, like a run line, money line split situation there. Yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot else to say about that, but I do like the under in that game. Do we get really crazy and go 3 plays here in Major League Baseball? I don't like that the money's disagreeing with me, man. Like in the games that I gave out, the money is actually, the money's not really agreeing with me on the under that I gave out on that first 5 inning under either, so I don't know. And I don't think it was really necessarily agreeing with me on the Red Sox game either, but, sometimes when you look at these percentages, baseball is just not a heavily bet sport, so you have to kind of keep that in mind. Like, the public percentages mean a little bit less when you're looking at the baseball board here because the public just doesn't get as involved. So the way that the line moved, I think, actually might mean a little bit more, depending on whether it's a setup or not, though, which is always the case. Like, is it a real move or not from the professionals? You have to kind of gauge that. But yes, I do like the under in that Cleveland and Seattle game. All right. Let's go to men's college basketball here. We have the Sweet 16 in action here. All the games are at night, starting with 11 seed Texas against 2 seed Purdue. Texas has won 3 games, technically, in the tournament, if you want to consider the first 4 to be a tournament game. They've pulled off 3 upsets in a row. This game is going to be in San Jose, California, because we have moved to the regional locations here, so it's not really an advantage to one team or the other here. Purdue, I think Purdue is legit, man. Like I said, I would not have hated you if you wanted to put them in the Final Four in your bracket here. They haven't been tested yet. Yeah, Texas has definitely been more tested so far with a win over BYU, a win over Gonzaga. They look good, but after pulling off another upset like that against Gonzaga, do they look too good? I don't know. Purdue just hasn't been tested really yet. I mean, they did beat Miami. Miami was all right. Purdue didn't really have any trouble in that game. Purdue, I got to give them the coaching edge here, even though I know Texas has Sean Miller sweating through his shirt and whatever, but Matt Painter, I'm going to give him the coaching edge, but the coaching edge is going to matter more in the quick turnaround over the weekend. Like when you have 2 days to prepare for a team you're unfamiliar with, the coaching matters more in that scenario. Now, the thing I don't like about Texas here is Purdue basically is the same type of team, just better. Both these teams play slow. They're both good on offense, and they're both not as good on defense. But Texas is just wildly variant. Like, their offense is very good, but their defense is pretty bad. And Purdue is actually still better in both. Purdue's the number 1 offensive efficiency team, according to Ken Baum, in the entire country. So even though Texas is a top 15, Purdue still beats them there. Both teams play slow. Both teams could score. Neither team is very good on defense necessarily, but Purdue is still better in both. So I don't think this is a good matchup for Texas because, again, they're facing a team that's better than they are and does the same thing that they do, just better. So I think I kind of lean to Purdue in this one, but the money is totally disagreeing. Purdue's minus 7.5, 55% of tickets on them, 63% of the cash on Texas. So the money is indicating on Texas, but I don't see it. I don't want to play the game at all. I don't want to fade a market read like that, but yeah, I just don't see it. I don't think it's a good matchup for Texas. But, maybe Texas will be that 11 seed. I mean, they're already the 11 seed that's made a run here, but maybe they are an 11 seed that makes a wild run, this far. I don't really think they will, but we'll see, man. I think Purdue will win this game, and I think I would lean to them laying the points as well. But, yeah, I don't know what's going on with the market there. Market also indicating on the under for what it's worth. The money has pretty heavily come in on the under, knocking it down to 147.5. I don't have a good feel for the total because, again, you have 2 slow-paced teams, but they're both better on offense than defense. So the scoring could still happen in this game. I believe Texas is pretty good at getting to the free throw line as well. But I think Purdue doesn't commit that many fouls. So I think that kind of that might be why people are betting the under. But that would seem to be another advantage to Purdue. So I don't really understand why the money is coming in on Texas there. So I don't know. The next game up is the game everybody's pretty much talking about, the corn battle between Iowa and Nebraska. Unexpected matchup here between these two. Nebraska had not won a tournament game in program history. Now they're here. I mean, that's not that unexpected that they're here because they're a 4 seed. Iowa pulled off the upset of Florida. I gave that out as a play on the show as well. Iowa plus the points. Whenever I do that, like I say, you got to sprinkle a little bit on that money line, man. Like in that case, I would have said about probably about 3% of that bet on the money line. They got the job done. I was surprised they won the game outright. They were in that game pretty much the whole way. Good coaching from Ben McCollum. It's going to be him against Hoiberg here. This is an interesting game because Iowa is more balanced. Both teams play slow, but Nebraska is the better defense. But Nebraska also is the higher variance team because they take a ton of threes. Iowa doesn't. So how do we handicap this game? I don't know. It's difficult. And could you argue that maybe Iowa looks a little bit too good because they just beat Florida? Is there any sort of like letdown here? Maybe that's something to consider. But I think the letdown isn't as much of a thing in the tournament, especially once you get this far. Like every team is just trying to win at this point. This game is in Houston, which I think is probably an advantage to Nebraska a little bit. They had a lot of fans at Oklahoma City, and those fans are probably coming down to Houston. You know, not that much of a trip really from Oklahoma City. So I think the fan base is going to be stronger for Nebraska here. The money, interestingly, is on Iowa in this one, though. Nebraska down to a 1.5-point favorite, 55% of the tickets on them, 54% of the cash, though, on Iowa. Money coming in on Iowa. One thing to consider is the fact that you have a 4 seed that's barely favored over a 9 seed. So that's one thing you have to take into consideration. You have these pretty disparate seeds here, but the odds makers are telling you these teams are really close in power ratings to one another. And Ken Bum kind of bears that out with Nebraska 9 spots higher. Top 10 defense, but outside the top 50 on offense. So I don't like that imbalance necessarily. Iowa plays even slower than Nebraska, and they're more balanced. Even though they're not the better defense, they're the more efficient offense. Nebraska is going to be the better team down low. Nebraska has more size. So, you know, but they also take more threes. It's a very weird matchup, to be honest. We've seen it twice already, by the way, which is a rare phenomenon. Like, usually you're going to be dealing with teams that haven't faced each other at all. These teams are in the same conference, so they played each other twice already. They went 1-1 against each other. The home team won each game. Iowa played pretty well in both games. The game at Iowa, I don't see it here, but I know it was a low-scoring game. Yeah, Iowa won 57-52 in the first game. It was low-scoring. I think Nebraska really had a bad shooting game in that game. So, you know, maybe they'll shoot better here. I mean, again, it depends on the three-pointers, you know, if they're falling or not for Nebraska. I think Iowa does allow a lot of threes, which is not necessarily what you want. Although, I'm going to recommend, again, buy Ken Bum, man. Buy this guy. You know, it's like $25 a year or whatever. I just want to see I wanted to see what Iowa's three-point percentage allowed is. It's very middle of the road there, 162nd in the country, 33-something%, whatever that was. So Iowa's not a great three-point defending team. But they almost beat Nebraska twice. If you remember, I actually gave you guys Nebraska as a play in the second to last game of the season at home against Iowa. Nebraska looked like they kind of had that game in hand, then they kind of blew it, and Iowa wound up being right in that game, and it wound up going to overtime, and then Nebraska wound up winning in overtime and somehow covering in overtime, but Iowa could have won that game, so we could be looking at Iowa potentially having won both games against Nebraska. This is such a difficult handicap, man. It really is. You know, my first instinct was, well, Iowa's going to, you know, look too good with that win over Florida, whatever. I'm not so sure, to be honest. I kind of like the balance of Iowa here. I don't really want to fade like a market read like this. I don't know. I kind of lean towards Iowa in this game, but it's, yeah, I can't read this game very well. As far as the total, it's gone down a little bit. There's a lot of money on the under here, and I don't disagree with the under in this one because you're looking at a good Nebraska defense here. They're not as good on offense. Both teams play slow, so I think you're going to get a slow-paced game. The last game they played was misleadingly high scoring because it went into overtime. So I would not disagree with an under in this game. But, there's a little bit of variance there because of the amount of threes Nebraska takes. I think the game, pretty much the entire game, is going to come down to how well Nebraska's hitting threes, though, which makes it a very difficult handicap, I think. So I don't want to touch it at all. The later two games, back in San Jose, we have Arkansas and Arizona. San Jose probably a little bit of I don't even know if San Jose is that much better for Arizona. Arizona, I believe, just played in San Diego. Arkansas is coming in for playing in Portland. So both teams are already adjusted to the Pacific time zone. So both teams set up fairly nicely as far as the travel is concerned here. I don't know if Arkansas is the greatest I don't think Arizona is the best matchup for Arkansas to draw here, because what do we know about Arkansas? They like to play really fast. They like to just go sheer talent, because that's what Calipari does. He tries to out-talent you. And yeah, Arkansas has the best single player in this game with Acuff, who is probably going to be in the NBA next year. But Arizona is the better team overall, of course. That's why they're favored by a significant amount here. Arizona also likes to go fast. So Arkansas is drawing a team that also goes fast and plays way better defense than they do. So I don't know that it's the best draw for Arkansas here, man. Arkansas does not take a ton of threes. They try to drive on you and go inside, and that's where Arizona is the best. They dominate in the paint. Arizona does nothing on the perimeter. They don't shoot threes. They're pretty good on defense, all around the court. But especially on the interior, and Arkansas tries to drive on you. Like I said, Arizona's going to outsize them a little bit there in the interior. So I don't think it's a good matchup for Arkansas here. The money is coming in on Arkansas, though, so I don't know what to think, man. These games, as far as the matchup is concerned, I think Purdue has a matchup edge against Texas. The money is coming in on Texas, though. I think Arkansas has Arizona, I think, has a matchup edge here, but the money's coming in on Arkansas. I don't get it. Arizona's -8 here. Do I think Arizona's going to lose the game? No, I don't. 53% of the tickets are on Arizona, 67% of the cash on Arkansas. That worries me that the money's coming in on Arkansas. But I think Arizona should not really have much difficulty scoring. Arkansas, again, their weakness is the defense. They don't defend well close to the basket, and Arizona is dominant on the inside typically. So that's not good for Arkansas. So I just don't get it, man. The only argument that I could see really is, Arkansas just got a scare, right, against High Point. Arkansas almost lost to High Point. Yeah, I like that aspect of it. When a team's coming off a scare, usually get a good effort out of them in the next game. But we're talking about a Sweet 16 matchup where both teams are going to give you effort. You know what I mean? So I think the matchup matters a little bit more than the situation in some cases when it comes to a game like this. I like doing that on the short turnaround time. I like doing it with the better team. When the better team is off of a scare, and you're going to get a huge effort out of them in the next game, I like laying the points with them, which I thought was kind of the case with Arkansas in the game against High Point, and it still didn't happen. High Point flew in a bunch of their students for that game. Ridiculous. High Point has a lot of money, man. People are saying, High Point is this, small, Cinderella. I'm like, no. They're owned by, a Lebanese billionaire banker is the owner of the school. So no, actually. But anyway, yeah, this game, I probably lean to Arizona slightly here, laying the points. Also, the total's really high in the 160s, so higher total usually means it's a little bit easier. There's more variance, but it usually means that the better team has a better chance to cover the number like that when it's a high total. The money is actually coming in on the over, even though the total initially dropped. I don't really disagree with an over here because, again, the teams both like to play fast, so you're going to get a fast-paced game here. Arizona's probably going to be able to do a lot of scoring against a pretty weak Arkansas defense. So I think the question really is, as far as the over, can Arkansas do their part and score enough against Arizona? Because Arizona clearly has the better defense here. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Mr. Pinsey, what's up? I don't think it's going to be Arizona by a billion. I'm very hesitant to want to do anything with that game. I don't like the market read there, man, because when I disagree with what looks like a pretty strong pros versus Joes market read, I got to, rethink what I'm thinking usually. You know what I mean? even though I don't see it. Like, sometimes I'll disagree with the market and I'll be right. So I don't know. I just don't see it in that one. I don't. And then we have probably the best game of the night, Illinois and Houston. I mean, this game is going to make or break a lot of brackets. And I have Illinois in my bracket here. I think whoever wins this game is probably going to the Final Four. I picked Illinois because way too many people had Houston. So I had to decide basically between Illinois and Florida. And it looked like Florida actually had the easier path, but not so much because they didn't beat Iowa. So I have Illinois. Usually I don't like that because Houston is obviously the better defense here. We have offense versus defense here. So Illinois, very, very good on offense. Them and Purdue, they're both like elite offensive efficiency teams. Houston, really good on defense, not quite as good on offense. Illinois, one thing they do really well is they do hit threes, and Houston, kind of their weakness is that they give up a lot of threes. Houston tries to kind of like destroy you on the interior, and Illinois is going to take a lot of perimeter shots, I think, which is really, that's the way that you can beat Houston, is by taking three-pointers, man. That's like the kind of the one way you're going to be able to beat Houston, because Houston doesn't really take as many threes. So if they fall behind, they're less able to make a comeback, which might be the way that Illinois can win this game, man, is they have to score and get out to a lead, make it so that Houston is forced to have to try to come back in the game, and maybe they won't be able to do it. Even though Illinois' defense is not as good as Houston's, Illinois is very, very good all around, though. Coaching-wise, Sampson probably gets the edge here for Houston. Underwood for Illinois, pretty experienced, although I think he's a loose cannon, and I don't really like him. But Illinois' got more talent, man. It's just that if Houston's able to kind of beat them up physically, Illinois is not going to like that. Illinois is more of a finesse team, and I usually like these beat-you-up, grind-you, defensive teams here. But in this game, I actually do lean to Illinois. Houston, this game is in Houston, so just like the Iowa-Nebraska game. So Houston gets to play in their home city, and I think that's skewing the line a little bit because Ken Bum has this game being like a 1-point game for Houston. They're 2.5 or 3 here. 69% of the tickets are on Houston, 50% of the cash. So Houston is a public side here, man. People like what they've seen out of Houston so far, but they haven't played anybody. I mean, yeah, they played Texas A&M, okay. Houston was able to beat Buckyball. Buckyball, he's a new coach with Texas A&M this year. They play fast. Houston is going to just slow you way down. They're not going to be able to take Illinois out of their game by slowing it down because Illinois also likes to play slow. Even though their offense is good, they play slow. Not as slow as Houston, but Houston slowing the game down is not going to take Illinois out of what they want to do. Illinois did get by VCU pretty easily, which, VCU is not a nobody. So, there is that at least. I would not disagree with an under in this game either because I think it's going to be a close, just a tight battle, low-scoring game. You've already lost value on the total, though. It's down to 140 now. It's dropped 4 points already from the opener. 62% of tickets, 52% of the cash on the over. Even though you would think that an under would favor Houston because they're the defensive team, but I think both teams kind of play that style because they both go slow. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens in this game, but for my bracket purposes, I need Illinois to get through this game, obviously. Although I have them losing to Duke in the Final Four, but if a lot of people get, so many people pick Houston that if people get Houston right in the Final Four, that is going to hurt me with my bracket. So I need Illinois here. Not just because of my bracket, but I will lean to Illinois here anyway. The market is actually agreeing with it. So I'll lean that way for Illinois to cover the number here. I think it'll be a close, lowish scoring game here. We'll see what happens, man. I think the fact that it's being played in Houston, you have to consider that, but it's not at Houston's home arena, obviously. It's going to be in the Rockets' home arena here. They're going to have a huge fan base there. There's no question about that. Illinois, I'm going to tell you, Illinois travels because I saw Illinois play in the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16 in Boston 2 years ago, and it was UConn, Illinois, Iowa State, and San Diego State. Illinois had the second strongest fan base there besides, obviously, UConn. Illinois had a ton of fans there, so they travel pretty well. Even though they're going to be outnumbered by Houston fans, Illinois has a huge fan base in a huge city in Chicago, you know what I mean? So they're probably going to travel pretty well to this. So I'm not that concerned by that. So I'm going to lean to Illinois there. Purdue, Nebraska, Illinois, Arizona. You mean to win or to cover? I mean, I think Purdue and Arizona should win because they're both big favorites. I lean to Iowa and Illinois against the spread there. We had the same Final Four, and you made your bracket before me. Oh, shit. Does that mean I'm doing something wrong? I don't know. Fleming's, he's Houston's best player. I think he's good. He's good when he's like driving to the basket and using his physicality, and he's good on defense. I think he is good. He might need a haircut, though. All right. We're at right around the hour mark. You know what I do. I'm going to take a little bit of a break. We got a pretty good amount of hockey to break down here. I do have one more play I'm going to give out in hockey, and then we have 3 NBA games that are going to be boring to talk about, but I'll be right back. I'll bring up the hockey board for you here. That's what we're going to talk about now. Zoom out a little bit. Way too much hockey, dude. Hockey is way too lopsided. Like, I don't know why you have like 15 games one day, 2 the next day, 13 the next day. But hold on a second. All right, hockey. I do have one play on the hockey board here. All night games here. We got Columbus and Montreal. Now for hockey, as you see, I do have the NHL standings up here because we're getting to the point of the season where the standings definitely matter. You got teams that are basically securely in some cases, especially in the Western Conference. You got a lot of teams fighting for wild card positioning potentially and trying to avoid the wild card and stuff like that. So that's something to consider from a motivational perspective. Columbus and Montreal, these are both teams that are fighting for playoff positioning pretty much. Montreal, is tied with the Bruins, who are the top wild card right now. So there is a little bit of a battle there for that. And I believe they're in the same division as well. It's just Montreal must have a tiebreaker or something. Okay, but anyway, I think for motivation, like you're going to get motivation for both teams here. Columbus is also in the same boat, like 1 point behind there. It's just they're in a weaker division. All right, but we got to look at the scheduling situation as well. Columbus just beat Philadelphia, whatever. This is not going to be the game that I have a play on, by the way. Philadelphia is... I think they're still kind of in the mix right now, but, whatever. Montreal just had a big win over Carolina, though, 5-2, after destroying the Islanders as well, 7-3. Islanders are in the mix as well for trying to get a playoff spot. I kind of like Columbus here, man. Montreal just coming off that very satisfying win against Carolina. I know both teams are in a position where they got to keep winning, but... yeah, I mean, again, I can't overlook the fact that Montreal is coming off that huge win. So I'm kind of handicapping it like I just would a regular season. I mean, it is the regular season still anyway, but Montreal down from -120 to -117, 87% of the tickets, 99% of the cash on them. They're a public side. I would probably lean Columbus money line in that one. Not a strong opinion, though. Pittsburgh at Ottawa. I mean, I think, again, you have teams that are fighting for playoff positioning in this game. Pittsburgh is the last of the teams in from the Metro division right now, and right around where the wild cards are. Ottawa's literally the last team in right now, tied with the Islanders, barely ahead of the Red Wings, and then the Flyers are a little bit behind that. Dude, I mean, a lot of these teams have pretty good records, and some of these teams are not making the playoffs. The Eastern Conference is a cluster, kind of like it was last year. By the way, the most hilarious thing about this is the only team in the East that's officially eliminated is the Rangers. 2 years in a row, they don't make the playoffs. Oh, man. I'm not sad about it. Pittsburgh, coming off a couple of pretty ugly losses, but to good teams, Carolina and Colorado. Going to Ottawa for a game. Maybe it's bounce back time for Pittsburgh here coming into this one. Ottawa needs to get wins as well, though. Ottawa's on a 4-game win streak. They're returning home from a road trip, but they were on the road Monday, Tuesday. They're playing a 3rd game in 4 days, which is not great. They do have Tampa Bay on deck because they have to go back out on the road. Yeah, I mean, the return from only a 2-game road trip doesn't concern me that much, especially, just to New York and Detroit. But, yeah, I don't know. The fact that they're on a win streak, Pittsburgh's coming off kind of an ugly loss. I kind of lean to Pittsburgh here. Both teams kind of in the same boat as far as playoff motivation. Ottawa's a public side, 85% of the tickets, only 83% of the cash. They're sitting around minus 145, minus 148, is what it moved up to. But, yeah, I would lean to Pittsburgh. Did I say Pittsburgh? Yeah, Pittsburgh on the money line. This is the way I would lean in that one. Seattle at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay obviously is going to be a huge favorite here. I believe, I was going to say, believe it or not, Seattle is not out of it yet. They're 5 points back of the last wild card spot, which is Nashville right now. Nashville being in the West still makes no sense to me. Seattle coming off a couple of losses here, but remember, that was a loss that I gave out on the show the other day on Tuesday. Shootout loss to Florida, absolutely brutal. They made a huge comeback in that game just to lose to Florida. Florida, you're going to get up for a game against Florida, even though I don't even think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I think, in fact, they're pretty close to being eliminated. But still a big game. Now, Seattle's trying to finish the road trip here. Not that easy, but maybe they're going to give you effort because it's against Tampa Bay. Everybody knows they're good. Seattle hasn't won any game on the road trip here. There's still, maybe a shot they can make the playoffs here. Tampa Bay is one of the teams that's more secure in a playoff spot. They're in second place in the Atlantic right now. They have a 5-point gap between them and Montreal, who's behind them. So Tampa Bay is a bit more secure here. So you might get a little bit less effort out of a team like Tampa Bay right now. They just beat Minnesota, which is a pretty big win. Ottawa on deck might be a little bit of a bigger game for them as well. So I like Seattle in this game. Tampa Bay down to minus 275 from minus 292. 89% of the tickets, 99% of the cash on Tampa Bay. I would not put much weight into that cash percentage there. I think Tampa Bay, they're going to be a public side. This is one where it would be Seattle puck line on this one. You can get them probably at a pretty good puck line price there. ESPN has a doubleheader with 2 interesting games. The first game up is Minnesota, Florida. Of course, Florida is probably not getting into the playoffs, man, even though they're back-to-back champions. They're not even, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. And once Florida gets officially eliminated, it's going to be fade time to fade Florida, man, when they're officially eliminated because they're so used to winning the cup and whatever. If they're not even going to make the playoffs, I mean, you want to look to fade them. Minnesota, you might want to fade them here too. Minnesota coming off that loss to Tampa Bay, 6-3. Going to try to probably get a win here against Florida. Florida did just get that win over Seattle where I'm not happy about it, but yeah, that was in a return home spot. They played badly. They got the win. It is an ESPN game, so maybe you do get effort out of Florida here because they're playing a decent team. They didn't play that well in their last game. And I do talk about this when teams return home from a road trip and they don't have a particularly good game. A lot of times they will play better in the next game. This game has got to be a stay away from me. The money is coming in on Minnesota for what it's worth. They dropped from minus 155 to minus 140. 79% of tickets, 97% of the cash on them. From a motivational aspect, I kind of agree with Minnesota here. It's tough to figure out. Minnesota sitting at 92 points, which is what's going on in the Western Conference is insane because all the playoff teams from the Central have better point totals than all the teams from the Pacific. Like, it's so lopsided towards the Central because Colorado and Dallas are both in it. So Minnesota is in no danger of losing their playoff spot. They're 12 points ahead of Utah. So, yeah, like there's no question that Minnesota is going to make the playoffs here. So actually, yeah, I mean, Minnesota does not have a whole lot to play for here, really, to be honest. But Florida really doesn't either. So it's a weird game where maybe an over would be in consideration there because that's what happens when you have teams that aren't that highly motivated anymore. Overs do make sense as well in games like that. So those are my thoughts on that first ESPN game. Dallas at the Islanders. Dallas is on a bad stretch right now, losing 3 games in a row. But I just showed you they're going to make the playoffs. They're pretty much locked in. They actually played DeSmith twice in a row. I don't know if Ottinger's hurt. Let me see. I think maybe they just decided to rest him a little bit more. Because, again, Dallas doesn't have a ton to play for here because they're already in the playoffs pretty much. Fairly locked into one of those playoff spots there. They've lost 3 games in a row, but, they're starting a road trip. Maybe you look at that as a reset because, you got to at least win some games. You can't just lose all the rest of your games, Losing at home to New Jersey, maybe that's the last straw. They had 3 big games prior to that. They were all within 1 goal against Colorado, Minnesota, Vegas, so it wasn't a particularly good spot against New Jersey there. So maybe going out on the road, maybe they will actually have some motivation here. The Islanders are going to be motivated too because I just showed you they're like just outside of the playoffs right now. And they're staying at home, and they just lost to Chicago, which is a really ugly loss. So I actually probably prefer the Islanders in this game. I think the motivation is more heavy on their side. The money is definitely agreeing with that. Dallas down from -130 to -125 here. 76% of the tickets on Dallas. 54% of the cash, though, on the Islanders. So the money is saying Islanders. I also agree. You get them as a little bit of a home dog here. Public loves these good teams, man, like Dallas. But again, the motivation is more in question with Dallas right now. So that is also not my play, though. Chicago at Philadelphia. Chicago, like I said, they just beat the Islanders. Chicago's pretty much just playing out the stretch. They're not going to make the playoffs. Philly, I think there might be still a chance. I mentioned them. They're kind of in that grouping in the East where they might still be able to make the playoffs. They're going to have to make a run, though. They just lost at home to Columbus. I probably prefer the Flyers here. Chicago coming off a decent road win there. They get a chance to make spoiler here, but do they care that much about spoiling it for Philadelphia? Probably not. Philadelphia down from -170 to -163, but it looks like the money is on Philadelphia. 56% of tickets, 94% of the cash on them. It would have to be like a split puck line, money line situation there where you're making your own -1 puck line or something like that with Philadelphia. That would be my lean in that one. San Jose at St. Louis. San Jose, I don't think they're going to be making the playoffs. I think they're pretty much out of it at this point. They've lost 4 games in a row, but maybe they'll give you some effort here after some pretty ugly losses here. 5 games in a row, actually, my mistake. Playing a St. Louis team that's actually worse than all those other teams. So, it's a step down in class for San Jose here. Maybe they'll try to get a win here. St. Louis, they're not going anywhere either, and they're coming off a nice shutout win against Washington in a return home spot. So I probably do lean to San Jose here. You got 2 teams that have nothing to play for pretty much at this point. An over is definitely worth considering here as well, in my opinion. St. Louis is down from -145 to -140. It looks like the money is indicating on the Blues here. I don't know why. 64% of tickets, 57% of the cash on San Jose. That's the type of market read I don't like. And yes, I know I forgot to mention I am wearing my Red Sox hat for opening day here, even though I'm fading them in that game. Oh, boy. Anyway, yes. It's not a market read that I would want to fade. I would not want to fade St. Louis here because the market read is making it look like San Jose is a dreaded public underdog with less than the money on them. I don't want to fade that. Perhaps the better way to look at it is the over. We see money coming in on the over a little bit here, it looks like. Again, when you have 2 teams that I think they're both pretty weak goaltending-wise and defensively. I know Binnington Sometimes he's really good, sometimes he's awful. But two teams that don't necessarily have a ton of motivation at this point, over kind of makes sense in a game like that with two teams that are pretty much out of it. Next game up is my actual play. And we are going to take, I haven't put it in yet. We're going to take the Nashville Predators on the money line here. I know they're a team that they're in the last playoff spot right now, so they need to win. And usually I don't like playing these need-to-win teams, but we're not asking them to cover a spread here or anything like that and win by margin. You know what I mean? You're literally picking the winner here at a minus 110 price. You're just picking the winner, and that's what they need to do, obviously. I think New Jersey is in a bad spot here. I mean, New Jersey, they lost Jack Hughes for the rest of the season. They know they're not going anywhere, man. I know they've been playing well recently. They've won 4 of the last 5 games, but they just won at Dallas, dude. That was a monster win at Dallas, and they have a huge game against Carolina on deck. Do you really think they care about playing spoiler to a Western Conference team here? I don't think so. So I don't like New Jersey here. I think they're in a sandwich spot. A team like this, I think you're just going to get effort out of them when it's a game against a really big team. For Nashville, they've quietly been playing well, 5 games in a row, although most of those games were not wins against impressive teams. The good win in there was against Vegas. And yeah, I know they're playing a lot of games in quick succession here, but most of them have been at home, so I'm not as worried about that. They have momentum. They're staying at home. They need to keep winning to try to make this playoff push here. So, yeah, we're going to go with Nashville here. I think the spot for the Devils is bad. If we look at the standings real quick one more time here, I think I lost this. I closed that window. Look at the standings here. New Jersey, I mean, they have no shot. They're like 11 points back of Ottawa. Yeah, you pretty much know they're pretty much out of it, whereas Nashville, they got to keep winning to hang on here, man. They're 3 points ahead of the next closest team, which is the Kings right now. We're going to go with Nashville. The money looks like it's heavily agreeing with me here. 50-50 ticket split, but 72% of the cash on Nashville. And they dropped from minus 120 to minus 109. I don't know if that means maybe Saros is not going to be their goalie in this one, but I don't even care. New Jersey, it's going to be Markstrom or Allen. I don't care. We're going with the situation here. Sometimes I will factor the goalie in, but in this case, I don't think we need to. I don't think there's a huge drop-off necessarily between either team's top 2 goalies, so we're going with Nashville there. All right. Colorado at Winnipeg. Colorado, as we saw, I mean, they're pretty much locked in at this point. I mean, they could potentially lose the 1 seed, which I guess they want to hang on to because you get home ice throughout. So they'd get to play in elevation, but they've won 3 games in a row. They just got a very satisfying blowout revenge win against Pittsburgh, finishing a road trip here where they're already 3-0 on the road trip. They are playing a Winnipeg team they just lost to at home, or excuse me, on the road, actually, again, not that long ago. They lost 3-1 at Winnipeg, so returning to the scene of the crime, maybe you'll get an effort out of Colorado here, but they just did the same thing against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had totally embarrassed them in Colorado, 7-2. Colorado, you know they got up for that game against Pittsburgh on Tuesday, and they smacked them. So I probably do lean to Winnipeg here. Winnipeg doesn't have much to play for at this point, but they get a chance to beat Colorado here. Winnipeg returned home from a road trip in their last game. Not a long road trip, but it did take them all the way to Boston. They returned home and they got a good win over Vegas, so I guess you could argue maybe a little bit of a letdown, but you're playing Colorado, man. You're going to get up mentally for this game. It's just a matter of physically, can they play these 2 huge games in a row? I think they can. Hellebuck had a rest in the Sunday game, so he's only played 1 game since Saturday, so he'll probably be in net again here. I would lean to Winnipeg in this one. Everybody loves Colorado. They're the best team. We know that, but again, it's about motivation, and Colorado, they're close to pretty much locking up the 1 seed. They've already clinched a playoff spot, whatever. They're down from minus 190 to minus 180 here. 90% of tickets, 99% of the cash. I would not put much weight into that, but I think they're a very public side and unnecessarily not unnecessarily, but we know why. The public is just going to come in and play the better team, but in a situation like that, that's not what I would do. It would probably be Winnipeg, like puck line or something like that. Washington at Utah. Washington on a 2-game losing streak. I mean, I think Washington is still in the mix. I just mentioned Washington, right? I think they're still in the playoff hunt here. Going into elevation, but off a very, very gross loss to St. Louis. I think you're going to get a bounce back out of Washington. You can see why they did bad in that game, because they played Colorado into overtime the game before that. You know what I mean? So they were in a hangover spot coming off that Colorado game. They had a playoff team in Utah up next, or likely a playoff team in Utah, and then Vegas. So I think it was kind of a sandwich spot as well. It was a bad spot for Washington. I think now they bounce back. Even though they're going to have to go into elevation here. They're going to face a motivated Utah team too, I think, because Utah is still trying to hold on to their playoff spot here. They're a wild card right now because they're in the Central Division. So they're in a division where they have to get a wild card. They can't get into the top 3 in their division at this point. They're too far behind. So it's a crazy scenario in the West. So they got to keep winning. So Utah will be motivated as well here, but they're having to lay, a pretty big price because of it, and maybe it's too much of a price. The money is coming in on Washington. I do agree with that. Utah down from -160 to -148. 78% of tickets on Utah. Maybe the pressure will build a little bit on Utah as a decent-sized favorite here. Although, again, if you like Utah, you just need them to win the game. But I would lean to Washington, probably just a money line play. 62% of the cash on Washington. Big cash versus ticket disparity in that one. I do agree with it. Lean Washington there. Anaheim at Calgary. Anaheim, I believe, is trying to hold on to a playoff spot as well. I think they're actually atop of the Pacific Division right now. So maybe they have a little bit less motivation because of that. They've won 3 games in a row. They beat Vancouver in their last game. Not a big deal there. They do have Edmonton on deck, so maybe they're going to look ahead to Edmonton because a lot of teams overlook Calgary because Calgary isn't good. Calgary's just playing out the stretch, but they've won a few games in a row here, 4 in a row. Calgary actually playing okay right now, even though they know they're not going anywhere. Yeah, I think I'd lean to Calgary in this one. Anaheim, they're pretty likely to make the playoffs at this point because they're winning their division, even though it's the weaker division. 90% of tickets, 95% of the cash on Anaheim, down from -145 to -135 here. So they're a pretty heavily public road favorite here. And Anaheim's not as good on the road as they are at home either. Calgary's actually been decent at home too, so I would lean to Calgary there. The second of the ESPN doubleheader is a pretty decent game here with Edmonton and Vegas. I believe both teams are in playoff position right now. Let me look at the standings again real quick. Yeah, these teams are in the same division, and they're both in right now, even though their point totals are not that good. So they got to keep winning because the wild cards are battling with them right there. So Edmonton just beat Utah 5-2 on the road, though. So pretty satisfying win for Edmonton there. Going to Vegas. Vegas just had a pretty ugly loss at Winnipeg, but they're returning home from a road trip, although it was only a road trip that was Saturday through Tuesday. And they only went to Nashville, Dallas, Winnipeg. Well, they went to Winnipeg. I mean, that's a bit of a travel spot there, I guess. Bad loss, though. Now, usually when a team returns home, you know me, I'm telling you to avoid that team because they get distracted. They have to get back to home life, whatever. I don't think they're going to be distracted in this one, though. Against a good Edmonton team hosting an ESPN game. That's a fairly isolated game, even though they got to compete with the Sweet 16 games. But I think I would probably lean to Vegas here. The money is all over the Vegas side here. I still worry about the return home spot. I do. I'm not going to lie. But 56% of the tickets are on Edmonton. 87% of the cash on Vegas. You do have Edmonton coming off a very satisfying win. Vegas off an ugly loss. And I believe Vegas is below them in the standings too. So maybe a little bit more motivation for Vegas than for Edmonton here. It's a very interesting game, though. I think both teams should be motivated. Has some playoff implications, so it's a pretty good game to have on ESPN. And then LA at Vancouver to finish it off. As I pointed out, the Kings are actually a pretty good road team. And the Kings, like I said, they're the first team out of the wild card spots right now. So you probably will get a motivated Kings team here. Vancouver doesn't really have much to play for, but maybe they want to play spoiler. Kings probably come in pretty motivated, though, because they've lost 4 games in a row. I know the last 2 games went into overtime, and they're having to travel here, but A loss at Calgary is pretty ugly, man. So I think you're going to get a motivated King team here trying to survive. Vancouver's lost a bunch of games in a row, too. 3 games in a row again. You know, maybe they will show up for this game because they do have the chance to play spoiler, but I probably would have to lean to the Kings. I think you will get a motivated Kings team here, and they are the better team. They're a very public side, though. 92% of the tickets and cash on them, and they're a heavy favorite. Minus 170, minus 169. I wouldn't want to deal with it, man. I don't even know what the better way to play this game is, to be honest. I mean, I think the best thing is to just completely stay away from the game. But, again, if you get a motivated team that is the better team, and they're actually not a bad road team, the Kings, I kind of think that they will win the game. But I don't know, man. I don't like how public they are in that one. All right, and then we have 3 NBA games here that just don't really grab my interest. So the first game is a pretty good one with the Knicks at Charlotte. The Knicks are battling for the 2 seed right now against the Celtics. The Celtics, I think, have a half-game lead over them right now after a good Celtic win last night against the Thunder, where there was some pretty bad reffing that I was complaining about on Twitter there with SGA. Like, dude, you can't even get near SGA and they'll call a foul. It's so stupid. That one that I retweeted, Derek White, like, didn't even touch him. Oh, and it's a foul on Derek White. Yeah, of course it is. Anyway, Knicks at Charlotte here. We know Charlotte actually probably has maybe more motivation here because Charlotte is right now trying to avoid the play-ins. They're at least going to get a play-in spot, but they have a chance to get out of the play-in and get into the top 6. And they're definitely not a pushover here, man. And people are going to look at this and see, I think Charlotte is actually favored in this game, and they're going to see that. And, like, the public is probably going to want to take the Knicks because they have the way better record. The Knicks are coming off an escape against New Orleans, so maybe you will get motivation out of the Knicks as well after playing not that well against kind of a weak New Orleans team, although New Orleans is better than people think they are, at least. But still, when you're a big favorite and you barely get by, a lot of times you will give effort the next game. Starting a road trip usually is a focus spot. The problem is the Knicks have Oklahoma City on deck. That's a big game that people might be hailing as a potential finals preview, whatever. They say that about Oklahoma City and the Celtics as well. Detroit, you know, whatever. Cavs maybe even. But that is a big game for the Knicks there, looming on deck. For Charlotte, if it'll load for me. What the fuck's going on? Is my internet not working? Can you guys hear me? Odd. I think my internet's not working. Oh, fuck. No, it looks like it is now. My internet, I don't know what the fuck that was. Internet cut out or something. Charlotte's won 4 games in a row. They just annihilated Sacramento by 44 points. So a lot of times when you win by that much, I'm not going to want to play on a team after they win like that. But they're going to get up for a game against the Knicks, and it's on NBA TV, you know. So I don't want to play the game, but I think I do actually lean to Charlotte here. They are getting the money, it looks like. They flipped from a 1.5 dog to a 1-point favorite. It kind of looks too easy to grab the Knicks as an underdog here. 64% of tickets, 82% of the cash on the Hornets. I'll agree with the Hornets in that one, but it's not really that strong of an opinion from me. The Pelicans are at Detroit. The Pelicans, they're a bit under the radar because they're better than their record would make them look, but they're coming off a couple of really tough games against Cleveland and the Knicks, coming to within 5 points of both of them, and now they have to try to do it again against Detroit. And it is Detroit without Cade Cunningham, which is why Detroit's not that heavy of a favorite here. But New Orleans might run out of steam at some point here, man. Like, yeah, they're going to probably try to give effort here against Detroit because it's a big game, but 3 big games in a row, at some point you're going to just run out of gas, man. Detroit did just lose a 4-game win streak in an overtime game against Atlanta last night. And I told you I did kind of lean slightly to Atlanta in that game because Detroit was coming off the win over the Lakers. Big win. They did finally lose. Maybe the Cade Cunningham injury catching up to them a little bit here. Detroit's still good, though. But sometimes when a team loses a 4-game win streak like that or loses a win streak, sometimes they will be hung over into the next game. And they do have a couple of big games on deck. ABC game at Minnesota, and then a Peacock game at Oklahoma City. So I do actually think that I lean to New Orleans in this one, as insane as that might sound. With We have 61% of the tickets are on the Pistons, 61% of the cash on New Orleans. I'm going to agree with it. The Pistons down from 6 to 4.5 here. The money coming in on the Pelicans, it looks way too easy to lay the short price with the Pistons here. So I do agree with it. I just don't know what New Orleans is going to have left after those two other pretty big performances. And then we have the ugliest game is Sacramento at Orlando. Oh, God. Sacramento, I mean, they're just playing out the stretch here. Do you get effort out of them in this one after they lost by 44 points? You might. I mean, they were putting in some decent effort in some of their recent games. So maybe after an embarrassing loss, maybe they will put in a better effort here. They get to maybe try to, I don't know, I wouldn't say play spoiler necessarily, but Orlando is trying to avoid being in the play-ins here. Orlando might show up still because they've lost 6 games in a row. They've lost to mostly good teams in that stretch too. Like all playoff teams pretty much except for Indiana, which was the one win I gave out. I gave out a win on Indiana because that was a bad spot for Orlando between two really good teams, Lakers and Cleveland. Now Orlando is coming off playing Cleveland pretty tough on Tuesday, so kind of a bad spot for them here. They have to go out and play Toronto, who's one of the teams they're battling with for playoff positioning here, coming up on deck. So maybe they do overlook Sacramento a little bit here. I think I would probably lean to Sacramento against the points here. The Magic are laying a ton of points, 15.5. That's a lot. 76% of the tickets on the Magic, 65% of the cash on the Kings. I probably agree with the Kings. You got to figure out how much motivation the Kings are going to actually bring into this game. Got to look at the injury reports. Wagner is still not coming back yet for Orlando. Suggs is questionable, so he was out with an illness. I think he is probably going to come back. And if he does, then you have that kind of, one of your big players is coming back. And if that's the case, they have to bring him back into the lineup, and that can kind of cause a chemistry issue, you know what I mean? And the line might be a little bit higher on Orlando than it would be otherwise. So if that's the case, I think it's actually maybe a better idea to favor Orlando in a case like that. And then, we know Sacramento has a ton of guys not playing. But a lot of times these backups will show up and give you effort and cover as a big underdog. So I'm not touching the NBA here, but those are my thoughts on it. That's going to do it, man. The plays today, one more time. We have 2 Major League Baseball plays. We're doing a make-your-own +1 run line with the Cincinnati Reds. I know we're fading my Boston Red Sox, but that's just where it all leads me, man. If you find a +1 run line, you could do that too, but that's where we're going with that one. We're also going a first 5-inning under in Anaheim and Houston in baseball as well. I like how the pitching matchup sets up for that. And then in NHL, we're going Nashville Predators Moneyline. So I know we're not making plays that are, we're trying to win money here, man. We're not just trying to force plays on exciting games. You know what I mean? So that's how we're going to do it. That's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, subscribe. Give me replies on the channel here. Let's boost this channel up. Let's get to 500 subscribers here at least, and then go from there and head towards monetizing this thing. And then you guys can super chat me and whatever. Try to get more people in the chat, man. Ask me stuff. We do a morning breakdown of the betting slate. Pretty detailed, I think. Pretty thorough every day. Hopefully the information I'm giving out is good. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube, so you can check that out. I did a Red Sox Dropkick Murphys Tessie cover there. It's actually a traditional song that Dropkick Murphys covered. It's a Red Sox song from way back in the day, old timing. So I got to get that up on the YouTube channel at some point today. What else is there? I don't know. Dude, I forget what my plugs are half the time. Oh, yeah, patreon.com/learntotoad. You can get some bonus stuff there. And then Losercast every Tuesday night. We had a decent episode on Tuesday. That's going to do it. I appreciate it, guys. I'll be back tomorrow morning for more Sweet 16 action and probably at least a smaller board in general, but there will be more baseball. Probably more NBA than today, but way less hockey. So we'll see. It's going to do it. Peace.